Before I get underway with my official intro, I will just note that Lori and I had such a groove fest to that countdown. That was amazing. Way to go. Welcome in, everybody. My name's Jesse, and welcome back to another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast with us. We did over 400 of these last year. We never slept. And it's so nice to be back in 2024 with a new group of students and groups that have joined us for the whole fall semester. Welcome back to class, and welcome back as we get to continue to celebrate the coolest scientists, explorers, people, and places around planet Earth. Now, everything goes to our YouTube channel. You can check this out there at the end. And today we are diving back in with our Peak Discovery series. Some of you might have joined us for this before. Alberta, you guys always represent so beautifully every time we've got a Peak Discovery series. So this is in partnership with the amazing mountain parks in Alberta and British Columbia. Some of the most beautiful places, not just in Canada, but around the world. So a big welcome back to all of you joining yet again. I will note, logistically, I got to remember these things before we dive in. We have a Kahoot today. So if you want to play along with your kids between the talk and Q&A, you can pull this up on the phone if you've got them. You can pull it up on a separate tab on your computer. Just a few questions to test your understanding and have a little bit of fun between the talk and question period. We've got 750 kids today, all the way from BC to Maryland. It is coast to coast. It's a really exciting broadcast, so a big thank you to you all. Now, today, we're going to one of my favorite places in the world, Banff National Park, to hear from Lori, one of the most featured educators in the history of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, about wild tech, how we use cool technologies, trackers, GPSs, cameras out in the field, and more to understand and study wildlife and make sure we keep wildlife and people separate and conserve the incredible animals and plants that we have in a lovely Banff National Park, which is the gem of Canada's national park system. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn you over to Lori to blow your mind with all the cool stuff in wild tech. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining us. Lori, welcome back.
Yay. Thanks, Jesse. You always get me pumped up for these. So thank you so much.
I tried. That's why I'm here. It's worth getting pumped up over, I think.
Well, I certainly think so. So hello, bonjour, welcome everybody to Wild Tech. Thanks for joining us for another chapter in the Mountain Parks Peak Discovery series. My name's Lori. I work in Banff National Park, and I'd like to start by acknowledging that Banff National Park is within the present-day territory of Treaties 6, 7, and 8, as well as the Métis homeland. The lands and waters of Banff have been used for millennia by Indigenous peoples for sustenance, ceremony, trade, and travel. We thank them for their continuous stewardship and for sharing the land with us. Now, welcome to Wild Tech. Today we are going to explore the amazing spy tools that Parks Canada uses to understand wildlife and help them thrive in our national parks. Or to put it another way, the tech is how we check the park's health with stealth. So we're going to get into the tech in a moment. But first, why is it important to check on the health of a national park? Aren't they protected places for wildlife? I mean, if we leave natural areas alone, aren't they automatically healthy? Not always. Here's the trick. National parks are protected places for wildlife and also amazing places for people to visit. It is Parks Canada's job to balance visitor activities in the parks with the conservation of nature. Park managers need to find out what's going on so that they can make better decisions to achieve that balance. Now, some species need extra help. These animals are called species at risk. Maybe their habitat is shrinking, or their food source is disappearing, or they're coming into conflict with human activities. For whatever reason, these species populations are declining. We might even risk losing them forever. It's urgent that we study these species to find out what we can do to help them survive. But how do we find out what's going on in nature? Many of the animals in the park are difficult to observe for one reason or another. Some are rare, some avoid people, some live underwater, some live in remote or difficult terrain, and some simply move really fast. And the way that we observe animals matters too. It's important to keep the wild in wildlife and preserve their instinct to stay away from us. If an animal like a bear starts getting too comfortable being close to people, that can lead to dangerous situations, both for the bear and for the people. Also, if it knows that you're watching it, that could change the way an animal behaves, and it probably won't act normally. I mean, imagine if you woke up one day and found a crowd of people in your bedroom, the paparazzi, and they said, "Hi, pretend that we're not here. We're just going to follow you around and film everything you do. So be natural." Do you think you'd find it easy to be relaxed and normal? I don't think so. So we have to be clever and more secret when we watch wild animals. We've got to use stealth. This is why we use wild tech, spy gadgets that help us to learn about nature from a distance. Can you name some good spy gadgets? What do you think? Maybe put some ideas into the chat. Let's see. I can think of a few. There's hidden cameras, listening devices, microchip transmitters. Well, true story, Parks Canada biologists use all of those things. Let's start with the telltale necklace. Meet the grizzly bear, a species at risk. Now, what's that thing that the bear has around its neck? Any ideas? It's not jewelry. That is a radio collar. To put it on, we have to trap and sedate the bear. So we only use collars when we have a strong reason to need to know that bear's whereabouts. Maybe the bear is coming too close to town or campgrounds too often. Sometimes it's part of a study. Believe it or not, bears can be difficult to study. But why? What do you think? Is it because A, they are big and strong? B, they are wary of humans? C, there are not very many of them in Banff National Park? D, all of the above? You can put your guesses in the chat now. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I want to note when you ask for guesses, classes, please do put them in the StreamYard chat, put them in the YouTube chat. We'd love to hear from you. D, all of the above is our first answer that came in. We've got everyone saying all of the above so far. Yeah, you're I think they're on the yeah.
They're on it.
Everyone's on board.
Well, you are correct with D, all of the above. That's right. We probably could all guess that grizzly bears are big and strong. And some of you might know that they tend to stay away from people. But many people are surprised to learn that there are only about 70 grizzly bears in all of Banff National Park. So even though they're a large animal, it can be difficult to find one. So to put a collar on a bear, we have to be stealthy. We set a baited trap to get the bear to come near. When the bear smells the bait, it's usually a beaver carcass or something good and stinky, they enter the trap and then the door slams shut behind them. And then we inject them with an immobilizing drug. Once the bear is sedated, we can secure the collar. And once that's finished, we reverse the immobilization. And it only takes a few hours of work to get a collar on a grizzly, but it's designed to last for a year or two and gives us a ton of information in that time. And once the bear is wearing a radio collar, we can go out into the field with a special device that tunes into that collar's unique frequency and find out exactly where it is. This device is called a telemetry receiver, and it looks like this. It picks up the radio signal from the collar, and each collar has its own station, right? So we can tune into that specific collar, and we can tell exactly which collared animals are nearby. The collar sends out a click every second or so, and the click gets louder or softer depending whether you're pointing your receiver in the direction of the animal or away from it. Sort of a warmer, colder, warmer situation. So we can pinpoint the exact location of the animal without it knowing that we're there. Stealthy. It's even stealthier to track the bears by the GPS chip in their collar because we don't even have to leave the office to find out where they are. GPS stands for Global Positioning System, the thing that you find in every new car or cell phone these days. It tells you your position on the ground no matter where you are. The GPS chip in the collar does the same thing. It sends signals to a satellite in orbit, which then relays them back to our computers in Banff. So we can track the animal's movements, even in far distant locations, over long periods of time. We use collars on grizzly bears to study how they interact with the railway line that runs through Banff National Park. This is the Canadian Pacific Railway, and it's carried trains across this valley since 1883. Now, in the early days, there would have been only 1 or 2 trains a day. But nowadays, trains are faster, more powerful, and much more frequent than when the track was first built. Bears can be attracted to railway tracks, and sadly, every so often one can get hit. In a population that's already so small, losing even one bear is a big loss. So Parks Canada and the Canadian Pacific Railway joined together in a study where we collared and tracked several bears over several years to try to understand why bears were on the railway tracks. Information on the collars showed us that sometimes they use them as an easy way to get around, like these bears are doing. Sometimes bears are attracted to grain that spills onto the tracks from train cars. But the study also found that they like to graze on plants that grow in the open, sunny places beside the tracks. Now, the collar information showed there were hot spots where bear and train collisions were more likely. Park managers noticed that these were places where the track curved, so the bears might not hear the train coming, or where there was thick forest near the track, so they might choose to run along the track to escape instead of stepping off the track out of the way. This led to a trial of jump out spots. And these are places where a little bit of forest is cleared or removed, leaving a nice clear path for the animals to exit the tracks. Now, did this work? Well, our first results are promising. You can see here there's a black bear taking a quick run through the exit point, and there's blurred wheels of a train in behind him. So this bear successfully escaped the oncoming train. But there's no one solution that will keep all grizzly bears out of danger on the railway tracks. And every time that we learn a new way to help, we can add that to our toolbox. Knowing when and where a bear roams also helps us to decide when to close certain trails or areas of the park for a few days or maybe weeks, so that the bears can feast on ripe berries or take care of their young or feed on a carcass uninterrupted. Fewer interruptions means healthier bears. This is all thanks to collars that allowed us to learn where the bears need to go. The tech is how we check the park's health with stealth. Oh, and tracking devices don't just work on large animals. Here's our next spy story: fish and chips. Meet the bull trout, a species at risk. Just like land animals, fish need to move around the park. And of course, fish are limited to lakes, ponds, creeks, and rivers. But not too long ago, a small dam on 40 Mile Creek in Banff National Park blocked bull trout from traveling up or downstream in that water body. They couldn't reach an important part of their habitat. Park managers realized that this was a problem that we could fix. And so in 2014, the old dam was removed. The bull trout could use the whole system again, but did they? How could we know? It's hard to see what fish are up to because they're hidden underwater, right? So to know if the dam removal had actually improved the bull trout's habitat, we had to find out whether the trout were attracted to the new stream and if they could get past the rushing water at the dam site. But you can't put a collar on a fish. So we used chips. Parks Canada biologists captured 136 bull trout and implanted each one with a tiny transmitter chip. The chips sent out an electronic beep every 5 seconds. Just like the bear's radio collars, each one had its own frequency, so researchers could keep track of individual fish. The fish were released back into the creek downstream of the old dam, and then we waited to see where they would go. We placed automatic receivers up and down the creek to scan for beeps, in a way, listening for the fish. By tracking these signals, we found out that not only were bull trout traveling up the stream, but we knew for certain that they could also make their way past the dam site without trouble, thanks to the chips in the fish. Now the bull trout have a full run of 40 Mile Creek, and that means a better chance for survival for this species at risk. Now, how else can we check the park's health with stealth? Have you heard of DNA? It's the building block of every living thing on Earth. It's a molecule that contains your unique genetic code, and it's found in every part of you. Your hair, an eyelash, a fingernail. And if you figure out the sequence of DNA from a sample of one of these things, you can find out who your distant relatives are, who your ancestors were, what traits you might have inherited from them. Meet the wolverine, a species at risk. They're rare and hard to find, so we use DNA to study wolverines. Now, you might recognize the name Wolverine as a superhero character. He is based on this real-life creature, and he shares a lot of traits with his namesake. Super strong, determined, and fierce. The original Wolverine has been known to pick a fight with a black bear that's 10 times his size and win. So it's not a good idea to get too close to a wolverine or to try to trap one. All we need is a tiny bit of fur to get the DNA sample we need. So what's a good way of doing that without having to capture the animal? Well, the method that we use is pretty simple. We bait a tree with some meat to attract the wolverine, and we make sure that it has to cross some barbed wire on the way to its treat. We do this kind of study in winter when the bears are sleeping, so we don't attract bears by mistake. And in exchange for an easy meal, the wolverine leaves behind a few hairs snagged on a wire. DNA samples from the wolverine hair help us to figure out how many wolverines are around here and whether their population might be going up or down. We can also tell when a new wolverine has come into the park and how many males and females we have. And we can build a sort of family tree to find out which wolverine is related to which. All of this gives us a better idea of how much space wolverines need for each one's territory. Then we will know if there is enough room in protected areas and parks to host a sustainable population of them. Now, we don't always have to see an animal to study it. We can also listen. Meet the olive-sided flycatcher, another species at risk in Banff National Park. We want to know why its numbers are declining and what we can do to help it. These little birds flit around quickly in search of flying insects, so they're hard to see, never mind trying to count them. But we can use sound to get that information. We put out bugs to look for birds. Bugs, in this case, means listening devices like the ones that spies might use. Since 2007, we've been using recording devices in remote areas to listen to birds singing at dawn when they're most active. We now have hundreds of sound samples, and they sound like this. Experts listen to these recordings to identify which birds were singing. They can even estimate how many birds there were. And when we compare recordings over the years, we can start to see if bird populations are getting bigger or smaller. Now, what kinds of things can affect bird populations? Well, we are studying whether the recent reintroduction of bison to Banff National Park might help them. Now, this might seem like a surprising connection, right? But stick with me here. Bison produce rich droppings that can be home to around 300 different types of bugs. Each bison leaves behind about 20 kilograms of poo a day. That adds up to a lot of insect habitat. One bison patty can feed 3,000 hatching flies within a couple of weeks. Before long, you've got a flying buffet for the songbirds, like the olive-sided flycatcher. With an increase in bugs of the edible kind, our bugs of the listening kind might pick up the sound of more songbirds. We've put recording devices near Banff's new bison herd to find out. Not only do bison help birds by improving their food sources, but they also help to build cozy homes for birds as well. Flycatchers and other songbirds line their nests with fur that the bison shed in the spring. The bison fur keeps their chicks warmer, so there's a better chance that they'll survive. As Banff's bison herd gets larger, we hope to hear more olive-sided flycatchers singing nearby. Now, attaching collars, implanting microchips, setting up DNA traps, and getting up before dawn to record bird songs, that's a lot of work, right? So what's an even easier way of keeping track of animals? We give the trees eyes. With remote motion sensor cameras. We attach the cameras in places that we expect animals to be, and whenever something moves in front of it, the camera snaps a series of pictures or a short video, like this. Amazing, right? This is non-invasive. The animals aren't disturbed by it, and their behavior is not affected by human presence. We gather images from all over the park into one large database, and over the years, we built a detailed record of the animal numbers and how they travel around the park. This helps park managers make decisions about how we humans use the park, such as where access should be limited or when a road should be closed. For instance, we close one major road, the Bow Valley Parkway, from evening through till morning every spring to reduce human disturbance to wolves with pups, bears with cubs, and all of the young animals and their mothers in that key portion of the valley. Now here's a perfect place to put a camera. It's called a rub tree. Rub trees are popular spots where many species might leave their marks, whether in fur, scent, or droppings. Kind of a Facebook of the forest, if you will. So let's take a look at some footage from this rub tree camera over the course of a month and see who drops by. Shout out the animals if you recognize them.
Human.
All right, pretty cool, hey? So do you think the guy walking his dog knows how many grizzly bears and wolves he's sharing the trail with? This is exactly the kind of information a camera like that can give us. Which species are in the area, what time of the day or night they're active, and the potential for humans to encounter them. This information helps park managers to decide how best to share this place between people and wildlife. So GPS collars, transmitter chips, DNA, sound recordings, cameras, these are some of the high-tech tools that we use to check the park's health with stealth. And how does all this help us? So many ways. Knowing how animals move around the park, we can make better decisions about where to place human structures or decide if something should be built at all. We can identify dangerous places along highways or railways where animals might be turning up, and it can even show us where to put in a wildlife bridge, like this one on the Trans-Canada Highway. It helps us to keep track of the numbers and health of animal and plant populations and gives us the clues we need to help our species at risk. All these tools increase our knowledge, which is our number one tool. Knowledge is what helps us make better decisions to balance that human use and wildlife conservation in Banff National Park. It's a special place in the world where nature and people can coexist. And the tech is how we check the park's health with stealth. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to any questions that you may have.
Amazing. Lori, that was so much fun. And your little wry grin every time you said that tagline made my day. So I appreciate that very much. Those are some spectacular footage. What an amazing program today, guys. And as we said, we are going to go live with Q&A in just a few minutes. We're going to start with a little few question Kahoot together. So if you guys want to pull up the game pin, it's on the screen now. If you're new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is Lori and I's everlasting respect. And if you don't want to play along and just want to yell out the answers in your class, that is totally fine too. However you want to join is fantastic. While we're waiting for you guys for the next few seconds, I want to give a big shout out to our Miss G's class, 7 Persians, our Taylor crew, Avica West, Mr. Edwards, and the W.A. Day crew in Fort McLeod, always joining us for these parks programs, Miss Evans in Northeast Oregon. We've got classes all over North America. Such a big welcome to you all. Lori, if you want to help us out with some hints in the final few seconds of each of these, I'm going to get us started, and then we are going to go to Miss G's class for our first question when we go to the Q&A. But here we go. Wild tech. Oh, it's gonna be fun. If you're on YouTube, especially, get your answers in quickly. You're a little bit delayed from the rest of us. How did Parks Canada track fish? Fish and chips with a whole section? Is it radio collars? Is it microchips? Is it sound recordings? Or is it cameras? We talked about a lot of things today, specifically our fish friends.
What goes with fish when you are at an awesome restaurant? There we go. Fish chips.
Right. Way to go. So yes, microchips is our correct answer. Let's see what that does to our leaderboard. Diligent Bear, which is a creature you can actually find in Banff, is currently the leader. That's exciting. What two things is Banff National Park trying to balance? We talked about this at the end. Is it visitors and wildlife conservation? Is it cars and wildlife tunnels? Or is it cameras and privacy? I know there's some words here that we talked about a lot that are in all of these things, but there's one specifically we want to focus on.
I see a hint in the photo.
Yes. We've got visitors and we've got wildlife, which was correct. So very good. 13 of you got that right. And again, if you don't get it right, that's totally fine. We love that you're guessing. This is amazing, everyone. Yellow Fox takes our lead. Ooh, we switched up the leaderboard. Okay. Let's head to question 3. We've got a few more of these. And then we're going to that Q&A. YouTubers, feel free to share questions anytime on YouTube as well. Why is technology useful to learn about wildlife? Is it safer for people and animals? Easier than standing in the forest all day? A better use of resources, or all of the above? You have so many field biologists on staff at Parks Canada. They love it. It's the coolest job, but you do have to stand in the forest all day sometimes.
Sometimes they just have to do that, you know?
Yep.
That's how you get the information. Yeah, all of the above. A lot of people got this one.
Yes. Actually, there's a hint for all future Kahoots. If we have all of the above, it's probably that one. No pressure. Just now you know. Did you enjoy the presentation? So all of these are right. There's no wrong answer. Don't think you have to put a specific answer. We just want to know what you think. Did you love it? Did you like it a lot? It was okay. Or like, no, wild tech's not for you. You want to hear about canine units, in which case you should come back in a few weeks because we're doing that. I know. All right, let's see. What do we think today? I really loved it. I really did. I'm biased. Hey, cool. Well, most of you really loved it. That's the kind of cascade that we like to see. So let's see what that does to our leaderboard. Our final podium is. Dun, 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 dun. And then Miss G's grade 2 and 3s. I'm coming to you. Purple Leopard in third. Second, Lucky Wolf, an animal you can find in National Park. And number 1, barely by 10 points, Yellow Fox for the win. You are any of these folks? Let us know who you are. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to head to our Miss G crew. So welcome in Toronto, my childhood home. Always nice to go back. 2s and 3s. Welcome in.
Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Do you have any questions for us? Any questions for Lori today?
Miranda and Tammy. Yeah, so we are grade 2s and grade 3s. So come on up. I know a couple of students had some questions. Go ahead, Miranda.
Perfect.
Do grizzly bears like honey?
Ooh. Oh, yeah. Grizzly bears like honey. They don't get to eat it very often, but anything with a lot of calories, a lot of sugar, delicious things like honey, they certainly like. Yes.
I like honey too. I put honey in my cereal every morning and it's the best. Just got to say. Let's head to our 7-persons crew, grade 4s. If you want to unmute your mic, you're right down the road from Banff. Lucky you out there in Alberta. Come on in. Hey.
Hi. My question is, I'm wondering how many bears do you see on your cameras in the trees?
Ooh.
Yeah, we see bears pretty frequently on those cameras. We have 300 cameras all around Banff National Park, and some of them are on our wildlife crossing structures. So that's where they can cross the highway safely, either by going under it or over it. And so, yes, we see bears pretty frequently. We see black bears and grizzly bears. Those are the 2 species that we have here.
Very cool. And if you want to check out more bear stuff, Lori's done some amazing bear programs to differentiate those in the past on our YouTube channel. So you can check that out when you're done as well if you're keen. Great question, guys. All right, we're going to head to New Brunswick. Our Taylor crew, come on in, unmute your mic, and come join us. Hi, guys. Welcome in. Come unmute. Hello.
Layla has a question here.
How often do you guys see wolverines?
Oh, how often do we see wolverines? Not very often. They're hard to spot. They live in the deep forests. And yeah, I've lived here for 20 years now, and I have not yet seen a wolverine in person.
I'm so glad that you asked that. I was going to ask the Wolverine question if we didn't get one from a kid. We actually had a Wolverine biologist on a couple of years ago, and she spent her whole life, all she does is go for Wolverines, and she's seen 2. They are so hard to find. They're one of the most elusive animals in all of Canada's forests. So if you want to go find Wolverines and learn a whole bunch more, you could be a Wolverine scientist when you grow up, and that's my plug of the day.
Yeah.
Alec West, grade 3, Miss Michaels, you're welcome back in. Come on in and join us. Hi, guys.
Hi, Della has a question. We've got a lot of questions, and it's a Voca West after all these
I
years.
know. I like to mess with you at this point.
I was wondering, have you ever felt bad about like when you see animals in danger?
Great question.
Yeah, it can be hard sometimes if you're studying these animals, and we let nature take its course, right? So it's not our job to interfere if an animal is injured or sick. Sometimes we just let that have to happen. It's not like a pet where you take them into the veterinarian and get their leg patched up or whatever. This is nature, so we sometimes have to watch those difficult things unfold.
Yeah, I'm really glad we get that question. We don't get it very often, but I really appreciate that, guys. And one day I'm going to get your pronunciation down totally pat. In the meantime, you can laugh at me every single day in Illinois, okay? I'm going to head to Mr. Edwards' crew on YouTube, and then we're going to do a whole other round. So, Fort McLeod, how many wolves are in the area? We're getting a lot of queries about specific wildlife today, which is exciting.
That's great. Yeah, we have estimated about 50 wolves in Banff National Park. Now, our numbers are always going to be an estimate, because we don't have a big fence around the perimeter of Banff National Park. So wolves and any other kind of wildlife that uses a lot of the landscape, that has really big territories, they're going to range in and outside of the park. So we're always just sort of estimating, but our estimate is around 50.
Okay, very, very cool. I also want to harp on something that was in your talk that I want all our kids to really focus on because it was such a cool story. The idea of the trains and finding out where impacts happen and then building in a sort of using the technology and understanding of bear behavior to make something where they can get away. And then having video proof of that in action is like one of the coolest conservation things ever. It's everything that we dream for in Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast is tech for conservation good. So way to go, Lori. Let's head back to Toronto. Miss G's class, come on in, 2s and 3s.
Oh, come on in, Colin. Colin, come on in.
Hey, Colin.
I was wondering how much bull trout do bears eat every single day?
Ooh.
Okay, well, I don't have an exact number on that, but you know what? Bull trout are really hard to catch for our bears. They live in sometimes deep water, so that's hard for bears to find the fish in. Also, bull trout are really fast swimmers, so they're really hard for a bear to catch. Now, when you think of fish and bears, often we have like images of those West Coast bears eating salmon out of the rivers, and they get tons of salmon when salmon are in their spawning phase, right? But our bears don't actually eat all that much fish. You might want to check out my Bear Aware program that is here on the Peak Discovery channel for more information on that. But so really not very many, I'd have to say.
Thank you so much for contrasting with the West Coast bears. Because, of course, as you know, most of our mental imagery of bears is like sitting there in the stream like salmon, another salmon, another salmon. And it's a little bit different no matter where the bears are joining or are around the globe. So do check out Bear Aware. It's one of the best things we've ever done. It's literally the program that I share with people to highlight like an amazing kids program of all time. So thank you for that plug, Lori. Let's head to our 7-persons crew. Unmute your mic and come on back in Alberta, guys. Hey.
Okay.
Is there any foxes that live there?
Ooh.
Yeah, yes, we have foxes. I don't know what our population density is, how many we have, but yes, I do see foxes. The place that I see them most often is just outside of the town of Banff, in the old airstrip area. That's where I think there's a family of foxes that have a den, and there's some actually that are denning right at the shoreline of Lake Minnewanka. So put those on your agenda if you're coming to Banff for a visit.
Very cool. I've only seen foxes twice in my life, but I think they are pretty widespread across all of North America. So if you exist anywhere in this continent, which all of our audience does today, go look for a fox. They're a really special little creature and very, very exciting. Great question, guys.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to head back to New Brunswick. Unmute your mic. Come on in, Taylor Crew, and take us away. Hey.
Come on up. How many times do you capture bears a day?
Ooh.
Yeah, the number is probably better expressed in a year rather than in a day. So we're not capturing bears every day for sure. When we were doing the big study with the Canadian Pacific Railway and grizzly bears, I think the most bears that we had captured in a summer was 12. So it's not that big of a number because remember, we don't have so many grizzly bears. We have probably about 70 in all of Banff National Park, and we don't have collars on every single one.
Right. I love it. You guys are like so on the ball today. This is so exciting. And by the way, I will note, if you're keen on wildlife stories in Banff or in Canadian National Parks, Parks Canada's websites and Banff specifically is like world class. If you want to check out all sorts of information on their conservation work, more stories, we'll of course be featuring them, but their website has some amazing stuff. And I will link that to all our classes at the end as well. All right. Wish me luck, Lori. Avoca, West.
You got it. All right, Mick, come on up at last.
So wait, what was my question again?
I don't know. What was your question? We've got another person who can ask if you've forgotten.
Wait, what was it?
I don't know. Let me have Lily come up and.
Oh, yeah.
You got it? All right.
So the question I was gonna do was, how big are the little chips things?
Ooh, yes.
The chips in the fish are very small. They're probably about the size of a lemon seed. Yeah, and they have a little antenna that comes out the back of them. So that actually hangs outside the fish. And so they just make a very small incision on the fish's side, stick that chip in basically right under the skin, and it's just a little wee bump, and then that eventually comes out.
So two things, because we're inevitably going to get a follow-up on this. It's something that like hurts for a second to the fish, but it's not going to impact it in any serious way. It'd be like you like pinching yourself. So very, very small impact for a lot of the good that we gain from it. And also, I've never heard anyone use lemon seed as their analogy for something small before. So thank you for that. That's marvelous. Let's head to YouTube really quick. And then time flies and you're having fun, folks. We are almost in our final few questions. We're going to take just a couple more. I'll pick one other one at random from our classes. Mr. Edwards' group wants to know, so many questions. How often do grizzlies attack other animals? Are they like the apex predator of everything? Or are they just like eating berries all the time? What's the deal?
Yeah, well, our main food source for our bears is berries. But I do happen to know that our largest grizzly bear, the biggest male grizzly that we have around the Banff area, bear number 122, also known as the Boss, has been known to have attacked and possibly, well, we know for sure that he consumed 2 black bears over the years. Yeah. We don't know for sure that he killed one, but we're pretty sure he killed the other one. So yes, grizzly bears can attack other bears.
That's wild. What a cool question. Thank you for that, Mr. Edwards. Unexpected place that answer went. That it's hard to surprise me at this point. That did it. You know what? We're going to whip through these. I'd love to get everyone one more question live. So we're going to do them like a rapid fire round. And Lori, you're the perfect person for that. Miss G, come on in. Take us away. Mute.
Sorry, I wasn't quite ready. I didn't think we had time.
Okay, all good.
How many species in danger do you have?
Nice.
Yeah, there's a couple of dozen. You can find a complete list on our Parks Canada webpage for Banff National Park.
So I'm going to send that to all the classes. So if you're keen, make sure you check that email when we're done. 7 persons, come on back in. Hey, unmute too.
How often do you see animals?
Oh, I see animals pretty much every day. Sometimes they're even in my yard in Banff.
I've been to Banff twice, and literally you can barely go 10 feet without seeing some incredible species. It's like one of the most special places in the world. It's very, very cool. Great question, guys. All right, New Brunswick, we're coming to you. Hey, folks.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Gracelyn. I have a question. How much fish do you guys see every day?
Ooh.
Yeah, well, like I said, the fish are kind of hard to spot. So you have to be looking in the creeks and the rivers and the lakes. So if you're looking, you'll probably see the fish. Right now, they're all under the ice in the winter. So they're harder to see.
I'm glad. Listen, that's a cool question because it highlights what fish do in the winter, which is very, very neat for some of your very frozen lakes. Lori, we're going to wrap up with a birthday girl in Avoca West. Come on in, grade 3s. And whose birthday is it? Hi.
It's Lily. Here's Lily.
Hello. Happy birthday.
Thank you. When did you start tracking animals?
Ooh.
Right. So the animal studies have been pretty much going on here. That's a good question. I'm trying to think when we started using a lot of the technology was probably around the 80s, 90s, when the technology became good enough to actually go out there. Like, for example, we started the camera studies around the mid 90s when cameras became sophisticated enough that we could use them in an automatic setting. So when something walks by the camera, it breaks a light beam and it gets the camera to fire, right? So people have been studying the animals here ever since it became a national park in 1885, but with the technology probably since around the 80s, 90s.
So improved. And I mean, even by that, like I grew up in 92 when I was born, and like the technology that they have today and the implementation of it and the cool footage that we get from it, like it's so much better than it was when I was a kid. Like you kids are so lucky to grow up in an era where there's such amazing things that we can learn from wildlife with these passive technologies. It's really, really cool stuff. Classes, this was a hoot. Thank you so much for all of you for the Kahoot, for your interest, for everything. Peak Discovery Series, lots more to come. In fact, like we've got, I think, 2 or 3 more coming up in the next 3 weeks. So it's really exciting. If you want to join us for that, everything else is on our newsletter as always. And Lori, before I bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell, is there like a final message you want to share with our kids about wild tech?
Absolutely. Well, you can help the national parks by respecting those wildlife rules, making sure that you give wild animals lots of space. Don't feed any wildlife in the national parks. And if you do see cool species like wolves and bears and cougars, be sure to report it to the National Park Office. That really does help us out. Having those eyes out there in the field is super helpful. So we do have the high-tech stuff, but sometimes low-tech is the way to go too.
Citizen science is the best. Lori, I can't think of a better message to wrap up with than that. As you know, we're going to bring in everyone to say a big thank you and farewell. So, Miss G's class, our Taylor crew, Avoca West, welcome in from across the continent. Thank you so much, everybody.